Two fish swim in opposite directions, one ascending toward the light, the other descending into the deep, yet they are bound together by an invisible cord, forever circling one another in an eternal dance. This is the symbol of Pisces, the final sign of the zodiac, where endings blur into beginnings and the boundaries between dream and reality begin to dissolve. Why do these two fish swim away from each other yet remain tied together? What are they searching for beneath the surface of the sea? The answer lies in the heart of Pisces itself, a realm where duality meets divinity, and the human soul remembers that it was never separate from the ocean it came from. Chapter 1. The Mythological Origin. Long before Pisces became the 12th sign of the zodiac, its story began in the realm of myth, a tale whispered through the ages about love, fear, and divine transformation. According to ancient legend, when the monstrous Typhon rose from the depths to wage war against the gods, chaos consumed the heavens. To escape his wrath, Aphrodite and her son Eros leapt into the Euphrates River, transforming into two fish to hide beneath the waves. But before they dove, they tied themselves together with a cord, a symbol of eternal connection. No matter how dark or turbulent the waters became, they would never lose each other. That cord became the invisible thread of Pisces, the reminder that even when we descend into confusion, loss, or fear, something sacred still binds us to love. The two fish, then, are not opposites at war. They are reflections of the same soul navigating two realms, the divine and the human, the eternal and the fleeting. One fish swims upward, yearning to return to the light, to spirit, to meaning beyond this world. The other swims downward into matter, emotion, and the complexities of human experience. Together they embody the Piscean paradox, the longing to transcend the world while being deeply moved by it, the need to escape, yet the inability to turn away from what aches. And so the myth reminds us that Pisces was never meant to choose one direction over the other. Its sacred work is to hold both, to remain tethered between the heavens and the depths, between what is divine and what is deeply human. Chapter 2. The Spiritual Meaning of the Two Fish. Every zodiac sign carries a symbol, but few are as layered, as paradoxical, or as sacred as Pisces. The image of the two fish is not just an emblem, it's a mirror of the soul's eternal motion. One fish swims upward, drawn by the unseen current of spirit. It represents the yearning for transcendence, that quiet, aching desire to dissolve the boundaries of the self and return to something greater. It is the part of Pisces that dreams of peace, unity, and divine reunion. The other fish swims downward toward the murky depths of feeling and illusion. It carries the weight of the human heart, attachment, empathy, confusion, and longing. It reminds us that enlightenment doesn't come from escaping the world, but from experiencing it fully. Together, these fish form a sacred cycle, a cosmic inhale and exhale. The upward fish ascends to bring back light. The downward fish descends to bring back compassion. They move in harmony even when their directions seem opposed. For Pisces, this is the spiritual task, to live between heaven and earth without losing balance in either, to feel everything without drowning in it, to dream without forgetting to wake. This is why Pisces energy is so magnetic. It reflects both the light and the shadow of existence. It reminds us that love and pain, illusion and truth, transcendence and surrender are not opposites, but different tides of the same ocean. And perhaps that is the hidden message of the symbol, that no matter how far apart the two fish swim, they are forever bound by faith, by love, and by the eternal rhythm of becoming. Chapter 3. The Psychological Symbolism. Within the mind of Pisces lives an ocean, vast, reflective, and unpredictable. It mirrors everything around it, yet it's often unclear where the reflections end and the truth begins. Psychologically, the two fish represent the split between the conscious and the unconscious, the waking self and the dreaming self. One swims toward awareness, seeking clarity, direction, and purpose. The other drifts into the depths, where emotions, memories, and intuition blur together like ink in water. For Pisces, this duality can feel like living in two realities at once. There's the outer world, where logic and structure rule, and the inner world, where feeling is the only language that matters. One side wants to understand, the other wants to surrender. It's why Pisces often appear elusive, not because they wish to deceive, but because they're constantly shifting between layers of consciousness. Their empathy is not selective, it's tidal. They don't just sense what others feel, they become it, absorbing the emotions and energies of everything around them. But with this gift comes a cost. When the boundary between self and other dissolves, Pisces can lose their own reflection in the process. They may confuse compassion with sacrifice, intuition with fantasy, or love with escape. Yet within this inner tension lies their genius. Because Pisces doesn't just feel, they translate feeling into meaning. They are the bridge between worlds, the interpreters of what cannot be said aloud. In psychological terms, the two fish teach Pisces how to integrate what's above and below, to bring the unconscious into awareness, to transform pain into empathy, and to turn sensitivity into strength. When the two fish swim together in balance, the Pisces mind becomes a vessel of divine understanding, not lost in emotion, but illuminated by it. Chapter 4, the connection to the 12th house and Neptune. To understand Pisces, we must step beyond the surface of personality and enter the unseen, the realm of the 12th house and its ruler, Neptune. In astrology, the 12th house is called the House of Endings, but that title barely scratches the surface. It is the space where the soul sheds what no longer serves it: ego, illusion, and attachment. It's not an ending in the mortal sense, it's a return, a quiet dissolving of form into formlessness. And Neptune, the modern ruler of Pisces, governs this invisible dimension, the world of dream, spirituality, and imagination. It is the oceanic force that erases boundaries, the planet that reminds us that everything we separate is, in truth, already one. This is why Pisces energy feels otherworldly. It lives closer to the veil, that thin space between the physical and the divine. The two fish, swimming in opposite directions, symbolize this eternal motion of dissolution and renewal. One releases what is known, the other gathers what is timeless. But Neptune's influence can be both a blessing and a burden. When embraced consciously, it awakens compassion, artistry, and faith. When resisted, it blurs reality, inviting confusion, escapism, or disillusionment. For Pisces, life often becomes a spiritual initiation, learning how to live in a world of form while knowing that form is temporary. It's the art of surrendering without giving up, of trusting the unseen currents when logic no longer applies. The 12th house teaches Pisces that isolation is not always loneliness. Sometimes it's sacred space. Silence is not emptiness, it's divine listening. And loss, when viewed through Neptune's eyes, is not an end, it's transformation. To swim with Neptune is to let go of the need to control the tides. To understand that what disappears was never truly lost, it simply returned to the ocean it came from. Chapter 5, the shadow side of the symbol. Every light casts a shadow, and even the most ethereal sign is not immune to its own depths. For Pisces, the same ocean that heals can also drown. When the two fish swim in harmony, they move with grace, balancing spirit and matter, love and wisdom. But when they pull too far apart, their cord strains under the weight of confusion. The soul begins to drift. One fish flees upward, desperate to escape pain through fantasy, spirituality, or idealism. It clings to the dream of perfection, denying the chaos below. This is the Pisces that disappears into daydreams, illusions, or relationships that exist more in imagination than in truth. The other fish sinks too deep, pulled down by sorrow, guilt, or addiction. It absorbs too much, every feeling, every wound, until empathy becomes exhaustion. This is the Pisces that forgets its own light, mistaking martyrdom for love. Both are acts of escape, two sides of the same ache to transcend suffering without yet understanding its meaning. The danger for Pisces lies not in feeling too much, but in not knowing where the feeling ends, in confusing compassion with self erasure, surrender with defeat, spirituality with avoidance. Yet, even here, the shadow is not an enemy, it's a messenger. It reveals the places where Pisces must learn discernment, to know when to flow and when to anchor, to recognize that boundaries do not block love, they protect it. Because the two fish were never meant to swim apart forever. Their struggle in opposite directions is what creates movement, the very current that carries Pisces toward awakening. In truth, the shadow is not a fall from grace. It's the moment the fish realize they are still tethered, still held, even in the darkest waters. Chapter 6, The Higher Expression. When the two fish finally learn to swim together, not against each other, Pisces steps into its true power. Because the gift of this sign has never been about escaping the world, but redeeming it. The upward swimming fish teaches faith, the courage to rise above fear, to trust that there is meaning in the unseen. The downward fish teaches compassion, the grace to descend into pain and not turn away. Together they form a cycle of wisdom. What is felt must be understood, and what is understood must be shared. This is the higher expression of Pisces, the soul who no longer fears its own sensitivity, who understands that feeling deeply is not a weakness but a sacred responsibility. Pisces becomes the empath, the artist, the healer, the one who can move between worlds and return with truth shaped like poetry. At this level, boundaries no longer mean separation, but balance. The Pisces, who once drowned in emotion, now guides others through their storms. The dreamer becomes the visionary, the martyr becomes the mystic. Because Pisces, when awakened, doesn't just swim in the ocean, it becomes the ocean. It embodies love so vast that it doesn't need to escape or cling, only to flow. And this flow is contagious. It softens others, reminds them of their own forgotten tenderness, their capacity to forgive, to dream, to believe again. In the highest form, Pisces is not the fish that flees or sinks. It is the current itself, guiding all beings back to source. The two fish were never meant to find opposite destinations. They were meant to complete the circle, the endless rhythm of descent and return, loss and renewal, human and divine. When Pisces accepts this truth, it no longer searches for home. It realizes it is home and always has been. Closing, the collective message. In every one of us, there are two fish. One longs to rise, to become, to awaken, to return to light. The other longs to sink, to feel, to love, to touch the depths of life in all its imperfection. And maybe that's the quiet truth of Pisces, that enlightenment was never about escaping the human experience, but allowing it to shape the soul. The dual fish remind us that our contradictions are not flaws to fix, but currents to understand. We are meant to move between joy and grief, clarity and confusion, faith and doubt, not to choose one, but to grow through both. Pisces teaches that love is not linear. It ebbs and flows, it breaks and rebuilds, and like the ocean, it never truly ends. It simply changes form. So when you see the symbol of the two fish, remember what it really means, that we are both the dreamer and the dream. That surrender is not weakness, it's wisdom. And that even when we swim in opposite directions, the thread that binds us to each other, to spirit, to life itself, can never be broken. Because the current that carries Pisces carries us all. And one day, when we stop fighting the tide, we'll realize we were never lost, only learning how to find our way home.